The Republicans have blocked the creation of the January 6th commission. However, several Republicans did vote with Democrats on this, and 35 Republicans supported Democrats in the House to create a January 6th commission because the Republican Party is spineless and weak. And while they sit back, exuding spinelessness, the Democrats push lies that work to give them power, creating more problems for the rest of us. Now, most of you are familiar with January 6th because the media won't shut up about it almost 5 months later. Was it bad? In many respects, of course it was. People were fighting with cops, pushing their way through the line of officers, attacking them, throwing things at them, beating them, breaking their way through doors. It was a riot, and it was bad. But many individuals were bewildered and befuddled, wandering through a building, seemingly confused. Many officers assisted the people who were there. Perhaps then a commission would have been a good thing. However, I'm of the opinion that it's time to shut up and move on. It was a single riot. It was a bad riot, but it's being weaponized by Democrats who are pushing falsehood. So it's probably better we just say no. The Democrats will never let it go. Maybe a commission would have been the opportunity for Republicans to present evidence, but it probably would have just been a very serious distraction and waste of our time. This is what bothers me about the Democratic Party. At a time when I'm typically talking about hyperinflation and Joe Biden's massive spending, which is destroying the economy, the Democrats just scream Donald Trump. And they lie. And they're lying now about what happened on the 6th. One Democrat saying that multiple officers were beaten to death, which of course never happened. But this is the big lie from Democrats, the lie of January 6th, and they need it to be the most extreme and absurd possible. They say that we need it to heal, but it is a distraction because failed Democrat policies are destroying cities. And unfortunately for us, Republicans will never have the strength to actually confront Democrats and challenge them where they need to be challenged. Take a look at what happened with Donald Trump. Every single turn, there was a Democrat investigation. They were accusing him of all sorts of scandals and nonsense. While Joe Biden himself has been accused, when have the Republicans done anything about this? In fact, several Republicans keep joining the Democrats because for the longest time, we had the uniparty, Republican and Democratic establishment, seemingly walking in lockstep, agreeing with basically everything and getting nothing done. And when Donald Trump stormed in and many Trump Republicans won, it changed things. And now you can see there is a fracturing in the Republican Party. The establishment neocon elites who defend Democrats, sacrificing their own constituents, and the Democratic establishment, which has subjugated the left and manipulated young morons who believe in stupid socialist ideology into following them, into electing the most pro-Wall Street imperialist faction this country has to offer. Sorry, I try not to be too insulting, but if you're a 20-something DSA type and you voted for the party of Wall Street and war, can't say I'm surprised. You have no idea what you're talking about. So let's take a look at what happened. I'm not going to start with the news about Republicans blocking the commission. I'm going to show you the lies from these Democrats. Before we get started, make sure you head over to timcast.com and become a member by clicking the members only button. And you'll get access to the members area with exclusive segments from some really awesome people. We just hung out with Lauren Chen. You know her, you love her. If you want to watch that segment, sign up. But when you do, you are supporting my work as we expand this operation. We are a few weeks out from launching a newsroom, a few weeks out from a total overhaul of the website with new features, and it's only because of your support. So if you think people need to see the truth and have the lies called out, because I'm going to debunk them for you right now, you must please share this video. If everybody who watched these videos shared them, then I'd be bigger than CNN overnight. Just one person, now with a company and many more people, but this show, just me. And we're going to do more. And if you think what I do is better than CNN and MSNBC, and yes, even to an extent Fox News, if you think channels like this need to succeed, share the video. I don't have a multi-million-dollar marketing budget, and YouTube doesn't prop me up like they do CNN. So if we want to challenge these lies, it's going to be up to us to share. Let's jump right into this story. Here's a tweet from Eric Garcia for Congress. He's got 142,000 followers, and he is running in California. He says police officers were beaten and killed on January 6th. What kind of person would be against investigating that day? Certainly not anyone who claims to back the blue. Absolutely 100% false. Here's Hillary Clinton. An angry mob attacked our Capitol, our lawmakers, and our election. They killed a policeman. And Republican leaders would rather we all not know more about what happened. Well, I mean, that's a fair point for suggesting Republicans probably should have some kind of investigation. So maybe these people could shut up. But you've seen how it goes. When Sondland was testifying in the Ukraine Gate scandal against Trump, he said Trump explicitly said no quid pro quo. He then said, but in my opinion, I think he wanted one. What did we get? Fox News. Sondland, quote, Trump said no quid pro quo. That should be enough, right? CBS reports Sondland confirms quid pro quo. It would be a waste of our time, and I think it was the right thing to shut this down. Now, I'll tell you what's sad. Gladys Sicknick, the mother of Brian, who did die, she said, quote, my son Brian Sicknick died because of the insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol building on January 6th. He and his fellow officers fought for hours and hours against those animals who were trying to take over the Capitol building and destroy our democracy. Now, this is emotional manipulation meant to give political power to the Democrats because it is 100% false. From CBS News, Officer Brian Sicknick died of natural causes after defending Capitol on January 6th, medical examiner says. I don't know what else you expect from me or anyone else. And I don't know if you can trust any of these news outlets. But if we are of the opinion that CBS, CNN, NBC, etc. are typically left biased, then when they say he died of natural causes, what am I supposed to say in response to these Democrats who are lying about what happened? What am I supposed to say other than these people are liars? And the big trouble, we don't got anybody pushing back. Some Republicans said no to the commission, but that is not pushing back. That's just that's just being obstinate. If the Republicans were actual fighters, they would push back in much the same way the Democrats did with Donald Trump. Every single lie, every smear, every media campaign, every investigation, the Republicans don't do it. And by all means, you can say it's because the Republicans are principled. They're not, by the way. They're just weak, and they like the establishment. Here's the story from NBC News. Republicans block independent commission to investigate attack on U.S. Capitol. The House passed legislation hit a dead end in the Senate due to a Republican opposition led by Senator Mitch McConnell. Now, as you can see from the Ground News extension, bias across 63 sources show this story is left biased 55%. They say the vote was 54 in favor and 35 against, short of the 60 needed to proceed, making it the first bill of the new Democratic-controlled Congress to be thwarted by a filibuster on the Senate floor. 6 GOP senators broke with their leadership and voted with 48 Democratic members to proceed to debate the bill. Lisa Murkowski, Rob Portman, Ben Sasse, Bill Cassidy, Mitt Romney, Susan Collins. 2 Democrats and 9 Republicans were absent. Senator Pat Toomey missed the vote due to a family commitment, but would have voted yes to break a filibuster, his spokesman said. The bill passed the House last week by a vote of 252 to 175, with 35 Republicans in favor. It was negotiated by Benny Thompson, a Democrat, and John Katko, a Republican, the top Democrat and Republican of the House Homeland Security Committee. And this is the problem. When Donald Trump is falsely accused, every Democrat walks in lockstep. When Joe Biden is accused, Republicans defect and defend him. Keep voting for the Republicans. Keep doing it. The Capitol Police, who are lying, keep voting, keep backing the blue. The cops who have arrested people for COVID violations, who have gleefully arrested people on unconstitutional laws pertaining to edict from governors, keep backing the blue. So it's not just the fault of the politicians. The political body reflects the voter base. That's right. Republican voters. Now, of course, the Trump sect of the Republican voter base is gung-ho and ready for war, both figuratively and literally. But the Republican voters are just demure, I guess. They just give in. And they elect people who just give in, who won't stand up. Now, there are a lot of Republicans who voted for Donald Trump and many Trumpian politicians. You get Marjorie Taylor Greene, you get Matt Gaetz, you get Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz. They demand action. But too many Republicans will just vote for the R, no matter what it is. And that means, as individuals who don't know and don't care, they elect politicians who don't know and don't care. NBC goes on to say, Katko won several concessions on behalf of his party, including splitting the 10 appointees to the commission evenly between the two parties. But Senate Republicans, led by Mitch McConnell, turned against the bill as some in the party feared a commission would be bad politics for them and undercut their goal of winning control of Congress in the 2022 election. Former President Donald Trump has pressured GOP leaders to oppose it, and McConnell called it a purely political exercise. Senator John Thune of South Dakota, number 2 Republican in the Senate, told reporters last week that some of his colleagues had concerns the proposed commission's work could be weaponized against them in next year's midterm elections. It's got such a heavy political overtone to it, he said before the vote. Senator Mike Braun said before the vote, which was another sign of Trump's iron grip on the party. The Friday vote was delayed after a logjam Thursday over a China competitiveness bill, which Senate leaders agreed to put off. Before the commission vote, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said to Republicans, "What are you afraid of? The truth? Are you afraid that Donald Trump's big lie will be dispelled?" What big lie? Oh, I know what Donald Trump says, but what does that have to do with you weaponizing January 6th for political power? The Democrats are such pathetic losers, such duplicitous, evil, spineless. Well, I shouldn't say spineless, evil, malevolent. We have serious economic crises. We have people being denied access to resources on the basis of race because of the Democrats. And this is what they dangle in front of their voter base to keep you distracted. Fortunately for us, the Democratic voters stopped paying attention a long time ago. But this just shows you what is wrong with our politics at large. The Republicans are losers who won't stand up for themselves, and the Democrats lie, cheat, and steal to get whatever they want. Why should I care for either party? They go on to say, House Speaker Pelosi criticized McConnell and others for blocking the bill after Democrats agreed to everything the Republicans asked for. In bowing to McConnell's personal favor request, Republican senators surrendered to the January 6 mob assault. She said in a statement, Leader McConnell and Senate Republicans' denial of the truth of the January 6 insurrection brings shame to the Senate. McConnell did not speak in the Senate chamber before or after the vote. Manchin disillusioned with McConnell. And there you go. Manchin. How does this guy get elected in West Virginia? Come on, West Virginia. You can do better than this. On Friday, centrist Democrat Manchin of West Virginia sounded increasingly upset with McConnell, saying his actions are complicating any chance we have to be bipartisan. No, it's you. I'm sick of it. Mitch McConnell makes it extremely difficult, Manchin said. Mitch is, I like to think, a person who understands this institution as well, if not better than anyone. He's making it so difficult on something as soon as this commission. The commission is something this country needs. Where are the Republicans to call for a commission on investigating Ukraine and Joe Biden's corruption? Pathetic. There's no excuse. It's just pure raw politics. And that's just so disheartening. So I tell you what, you want to talk about real leadership in the GOP? Mitch McConnell going to Manchin and saying, I will support this if you support a commission to investigate new evidence against Joe Biden in the Ukraine scandal. I'm waiting. And when he says no, because they are defending a crooked man and his crooked and corrupt family, then you say, well, that's too bad, I guess. Senator Murkowski of Alaska ripped her colleagues who opposed the bill, accusing her party of bending to electoral concerns where there's more to be learned. You pathetic losers. Stop voting for these people. Primary them. We just can't pretend that nothing bad happened or that people just got too excitable. Something bad happened. And it's important to lay that out. Yeah, what about the past year of Black Lives Matter riots? Said Republicans have an obligation to try and look at the truth, to be making a decision for the short-term political gain at the expense of understanding and acknowledging what was in front of us on January 6th. I think we need to look at that critically. Is that really what this is about? Is just one election cycle after another? Or are we going to acknowledge that as a country that is based on these principles of democracy, no, it isn't. It's a republic that we hold so dear. We have free and fair elections, and we respect the results of those elections, and we allow for a peaceful transition of power, she said. I kind of want that to endure beyond just one election cycle. Well, you know what? So long as the GOP is spineless and they won't actually fight for anything, and so long as Republican voters sit back with their hands under their butts and keep voting for the same people, this is going to happen. How does Mitch McConnell keep winning? Yeah, keep voting for him, I guess. Don't expect me to defend you when he does things like this. And I'll stress, you can be satisfied by him blocking this, but where is the actual fight? Where is McConnell saying, we demand an investigation into Joe Biden? Marjorie Taylor Greene did it. That's it. You got one person. All right. I'm worried. As a quote, as Murkowski spoke, Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman, who was lauded as a hero for his actions on January 6th to lure rioters away from the Senate, stood only a few feet away. Later Thursday night, in a controversial conversation witnessed by NBC News, Goodman showed Murkowski his phone and said, "You're trending." She replied, "Wait, you were behind me that whole time?" Murkowski then hugged Goodman. "I'm worried between us," she said. Murkowski is so pathetic, and Republicans just keep voting for these people. I know. We'll see what happens when re-election comes up. I'm willing to bet they just re-elect all these people. On Thursday, Murkowski pushed back against characterizations by some of her colleagues that the storming of the Capitol during the certification was not a big deal. This was not a group of tourists coming through. This was not a protest that was mild. It's both. Some people were morons who just walked around and the door opened, and some people kicked and stormed their way in and bashed shields and fought with cops and grabbed them and hit them. It's both. Quote, so to suggest that somehow or other this was not so bad, this was an attack on our Capitol designed to stop a process that has been in play for a century plus. When we moved to allow for the peaceful transition of power from one administration to the next, she said. And in a lot of ways, this was substantially worse than any individual riot from Black Lives Matter. But when you have all of Black Lives Matter and Antifa smashing everything and the Republicans do nothing. Okay. When the State Department then says to fly the flags of the people who destroyed cities, who burned buildings to the ground, and you have no one fighting back, so be it. I want to show you something. I want to talk about what Republicans should be doing. Let's talk about Joe Biden, a story I'm just absolutely sick of, but I think is absolutely important in this context. From the New York Post, Hunter Biden's Ukraine salary was cut 2 months after Joe Biden left office. That's strange. And the Ground News extension shows that the bias split across 22 sources, 95% Republican. I'm sorry, I should say right-leaning. The left doesn't know this happened. Only the right reported this. I think it was one source that actually covered it on the left. The Ukrainian energy company that was paying Hunter Biden $1 million a year cut his monthly compensation in half 2 months after Joe Biden ceased being vice president. From May 2014, he was getting paid $83,000 a month to sit on the board. But in an email from March 19, 2017, Burisma executive Vadim Pizarski asked Hunter to sign a new agreement. We are very much interested in working closely together, and the remuneration is still the highest in the company and higher than the standard director's monthly fees. I'm sure you will find it both fair and reasonable. After the email, the amount listed on Hunter Biden's monthly Burisma invoices was reduced to $41,500, effective from May 2017. The amount was paid in euros at the rate of between $35,000 and $36,100 per month, based on currency fluctuations at the time. Hunter Biden was getting paid $1 million a month. And then as soon as Joe Biden's out of office, Hunter Biden's compensation is slashed. And they say it's still the highest in the company, and the higher than the standard director's monthly fees. So they admit when they were paying him $83,000 per month, it was more than anyone else and well beyond the standard. But Joe Biden is out of office, and then they're like, yeah, no, we're gonna drop that down. So why do you think he was on the board? Who do you think was actually on the board? Yeah. Joe Biden was the real figurehead behind this, and Hunter was his intermediary. It's becoming more and more clear. Has a single Republican come out and said, impeach Joe Biden? Yes. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Of course, Trump has, but where's the rest of the GOP? Too busy saying whatever the Democrats tell them to say because they are losers. And the Republican voters keep voting for losers. It's a tough battle. Maybe in 2022 there will be a shift. Maybe there will be primary elections and these rhinos will get removed. Maybe. It's hard to say they're Republican in name only when this is the MO for the Republicans. But let me show you. Let me back up what I'm saying. We got another story. Hunter Biden brought VP Joe to dinner with his shady business partners. Once again, across 22 sources, 95% are right wing. The left doesn't know about this. People like Murkowski and, Ben Sass or whoever it was, who were voting for this Democrat policy live in Democrat world. They follow only the news stories of the Democrats. They use the language of the Democrats. They agree with the Democrats. Why do you vote for these people? I don't understand. I really don't. The New York Post says Joe Biden met with Ukrainian, Russian, and Kazakhstani business associates of his sons at a dinner in Washington, D.C., while he was vice president. The dinner on April 16, 2015 was held in the private garden room of Cafe Milano, a Georgetown institution whose catchphrase is, where the world's most powerful people go. The next day, Hunter received an email from Vadim Pozharsky, an executive at Burisma, to thank him for introducing his father. Dear Hunter, thank you for inviting me to D.C. and giving an opportunity to meet your father and spend some time together. It's really an honor and a pleasure. At the time, he was getting paid $83,000 a month. The guest list prepared by Hunter 3 weeks before included Russian billionaire Yelena Baturina and her husband, corrupt former Moscow mayor Yuri Luzkov, who has since died. Baturina wired $3.5 million to Rosemont Seneca, Thornton LLC, a Delaware-based investment firm co-founded by Hunter and Devin Archer. So Joe and Hunter go and meet with this corrupt Russian mayor, and then Hunter's company gets wired $3.5 million. It's funny, isn't it? The wires were flagged in suspicious activity reports provided by the Treasury to the Senate Republican inquiry into Hunter last year. They go on to say Hunter told guests before the dinner that his father would be attending. In one email, he appears to use his role on the board of the World Food Program as a cover story. Quote, okay, the reason for the dinner is ostensibly to discuss food security, writes Hunter on March 26 to Michael Karloutsos, son of the head of the Greek Orthodox Church. Dad will be there, but keep that between us for now. Are the Republicans going to come out and demand an inquiry into this new breaking news? Maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene will. That's it. Karloutsos replies, everything is between us. All good. I know you mentioned your dad would probably join the dinner as well. Joe Biden met with his son's business partners, who shortly after sent money to his private company, to Hunter Biden's. 2 months after Joe Biden left office, Hunter Biden loses money. I'm sorry. Occam's razor suggests that the solution that has the least amount of assumptions tends to be the simpler solution. In this instance, are we to assume all of this is just a coincidence? That Joe Biden's getting paid to be on the board of a company where he doesn't speak the language, but he has a career as he worked on the train company or whatever. Okay. Well, then what about his salary getting slashed? What about the investigations that got ended when Joe Biden intervened? You mean all of these are just coincidences? You mean that I have to make all of these assumptions about what really happened? Why would I do that? Instead of just saying it for what it is, telling it like it is. USA Today, another story almost exclusively reported on the right. The left doesn't know this. Biden, I never talked to son Hunter about overseas business dealings. Okay, well, that's a lie. We know that's a lie now. Unless, of course, Joe Biden met with Hunter Biden's business partners and they just never talked at all about anything Hunter Biden was doing work related. That makes absolutely no sense. How do we get a political party to actually challenge the Democrats and call for these inquiries? Perhaps you need to call your politicians and make the demands. Perhaps there's just not enough of you or people like me who are willing to challenge the establishment. You can share this video across social media and hope that it bypasses the censorship and more people will wake up to what's going on. I've spoken with some people who are, who said they were lefties, who said they were normies. And then they found my videos and helped them at least open the door to looking into news themselves. Call it whatever you want. Paying attention to the media. But imagine you're someone who doesn't watch the news. Imagine you're of of these news outlets that reported this story, 71% right wing, 95% for the other two. Imagine you're one of these lefties who's just not seeing these stories. You would not know. So when you get these Democrats like Hillary Clinton who lie and say that Officer Sicknick was killed, how would you know otherwise when the media isn't reporting this? Got to side with the audience. I experienced this firsthand when I worked for the ABC News Univision joint venture. They said, side with the audience. Well, what does that mean? If you report the news, then your audience is okay hearing whatever. I talk about things that people on the right disagree with all the time and people on the left disagree with all the time. And there's a good mix of people who watch my channels. A lot of people will like to lie and say that the people who watch my channels are overwhelmingly right wing, and it's absolutely not true. The ones who comment probably are because my opinions aren't entirely right wing, typically moderate left leaning. We've done a survey before. It's a fairly moderate show. What do we do to get regular people to pay attention? What do we do to change the battle? Imagine it this way. It's like the octagon. It's like MMA. And the center is being dominated by the Democrats. The Republicans are constantly up against the ropes, struggling to push back. And the problem is that Republicans keep helping the Democrats, framing things the way they want them to be framed. At a certain point, you need to storm in to the center of the octagon, take that ground, reframe the debate. Of course, in the real world, it is about being peaceful, resourceful, and persuasive. You need to change the conversation. Don't call them autonomous zones. Call them no-go zones. Don't call these people activists. Call them extremists. So long as they control the language, they control the framing. They'll say that the right on January 6th were terrorists and Antifa are peaceful protesters. So don't use their language. Never use their language. And you know what I would do? If I had family or friends and they were like, well, look, when these peaceful protests, I'd be like, oh, whoa, where? Where were the peaceful protests? Oh, you mean, wait, you mean the violent extremism? And when they say there wasn't any, be like, I'm confused. I don't understand what you're talking about. No, when they burned the buildings down, peaceful protests, I don't recall that. I do recall when they burned the buildings down. What are you talking about? I don't know. What do you mean? Look it up. Make them do it. Just act confused. Don't get angry. Don't say you're wrong, you're stupid. Just say, I don't know what peaceful protests you're referring to. Could you look up what you mean? Oh, peaceful protest. Well, that's a picture of a fire. I don't understand. Fire's peaceful? Use the Socratic method. Ask them questions. Make them answer for it. Show them a photo. Show them a news article and ask them, like, here's an article of a police department was burnt to the ground. Isn't that a riot? What's a riot? What's a protest? Some of these people don't care. It's tribalism. Republicans, as typically more individualists, that makes it much more difficult because the left is collectivist. They will just say whatever they have to say for their tribe to win. All they care about is owning the cons. It's funny when they project, when they claim it's the right that does these things. They say that Donald Trump was colluding with Russia. Meanwhile, it's Joe Biden who's now refusing to sanction a Russian pipeline while shutting down American pipelines. It's Joe Biden who seems to be the one who met with a corrupt Russian and then got money wired to him. Projection is smart, though, because they say Donald Trump did this with Russia. And then when you come out and say, no, you did, they say, oh, please, you're just saying that. None of it matters now, though. The January 6th commission, whatever. The Democrats are lying. We know they're lying. They know we know they're lying. And we know they know we know they're lying. But they know that most people don't care. And we think it matters. We think it matters, this fight. What's happening is the Democrats are doing everything in their power to dominate framing. That's all they have to do. So that regular people who don't pay attention only ever hear peaceful protest and insurrection. Republicans aren't smart enough to play that game. So the Republicans use the language of the left. And there you go. The framing, the battle, the Democrats have won. And it's because many Republicans join them. Primary these people. Don't let them just take the framing. Sorry, January 6th was a riot. Antifa was insurrection. The year of insurrection from Black Lives Matter and Antifa. And they won, though. They're flying their flags over our embassies. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 8 p.m. tonight at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you then.